This is the BAVision wireless IP camera. It arrives well presented in this smart box which gives full details of its specification. It's also presentable as a gift, and included with the camera is a cable to connect it to the router for very easy setup. A mains connection lead. I have to say this is rather short, and unless you're planning to use the camera next to a plug socket, then you may need to use an extension lead. There's a bracket for fixing the camera to a wall or ceiling. Screws in. Camera fits on here via the tripod socket on the base, and it can be angled and adjusted to wherever it's needed, then secures in place using the screw fasten here. There's an easy, simplified startup guide. It all looks quite daunting when you first see it, I have to admit, and I am used to setting up these cameras, but actually it's very, very simple. It just looks more complicated than it really is, and it doesn't really help by having so much documentation. It's actually a very straightforward process, especially if you've done it once. There's also a larger setup guide as well as the quick start guide, and this gives a little bit more information, but really don't be daunted by seeing this, because it really is a very, very simple process. It could perhaps be explained a bit better, but it is actually very simple. There's also an email address for help or advice if you are having any difficulty setting it up, but take my word for it, it is actually a lot simpler than it looks. And this is the camera. It's a smart unit. It feels solid and substantial, very well made, smoothly finished. There's a tripod mount on the base, an antenna at the back for wireless connection. There's the power input socket there, a slot for a micro SD card, and this is a handy way of connecting it for the first time use to a router. After that, once it's set up and recognised, then just remove the cable and use it wirelessly thereafter. The camera can rotate from side to side, or even all the way around, almost. And it will also go up and down, so it can trail a moving subject, and it's all operated remotely via an app on the phone. The app is P2P Wi-Fi cam. Runs from Android, and there's also an Apple version. And once it's been downloaded, then it will connect automatically to the camera once it's been set up. And setup is as easy as connecting this cable to the back of the router, plugging in the mains obviously. You can then follow the instructions in the setup guide, i.e. plug in the cable at the back, connect it to the router, enter the ID of the camera and the password, then change the password from admin to something more secure, and then simply scan and search for the camera and add it on. It's as easy as that. And I'll now connect it to demonstrate. I'm now plugging in the camera to a series of extension leads. Open the app, connect the camera, says offline. Now connecting. The camera is now online. So that was all it took to connect it, and you can see the camera which is now rotating around. So it's now ready to use. At this point, with the camera online, I was a little bit confused as to what to do next, because it's at this point where the instructions end. For anyone else, they may say it's perfectly logical, but I went through clicking all these buttons, camera, alarm, pictures, videos, no results whatsoever. I went into the settings, again utterly confused, went back and then suddenly had the brainwave of how to actually work the camera, you just press there and then you get the image. And what the camera is focused on here is a bag of hay. Temporarily and just for the moment, I've got the camera set up focused on my house rabbit's indoor pen. You can see at the moment he's resting on the floor and washing his front paws. The camera is positioned focused on him, and this is my phone which is monitoring him. The camera can follow him as he moves around to monitor him in different areas of the pen, simply by touching the screen on the phone, and you can then see that the camera moves and changes position. It rotates side to side, and it can also move up and down. As it does so, obviously the image changes on the phone. So it can focus on any area of his pen, or if this was used for monitoring a room, it could be positioned in the corner and then rotate around the room to monitor all angles. The app also has the facility to take a still photo simply by tapping on the camera icon at the foot of the screen. There. Next to that is video, so I could take a video while away. All this can be done remotely, so if I was in the other end of the country and I was monitoring the home, then I could take still images, video, so imagine if there's an intruder, the entire incident can be filmed. So very, very useful. There's also the facility for two-way communication as well, so that would certainly alarm an intruder, or if the camera is used for monitoring an elderly relative, for example, you can have a two-way conversation over Wi-Fi or 3G or 4G to check that they're okay and simply to communicate. So to demonstrate, tap the microphone icon. That starts the microphone. Hello, Willie. Obviously not the best demonstration here because I'm in the same room, but imagine if I was away, I could hold a two-way conversation with a pet, particularly a dog who may appreciate it more than a rabbit. It works very effectively, and although I'm using it now in daylight, it can also be used at night thanks to the infrared lamps all around the lens. So this is a very good product, very handy for monitoring pets, older people, disabled people, relatives, or even to pop into a front window or by a door to monitor callers. The camera is said to have a range of about 3 meters away from the router. The router is upstairs in the back room. I've now positioned the camera downstairs in the front room, so it's about 10 to 12 meters away. So this really is the ultimate test. I'm going to plug it in and see if it connects. It's now plugged in. I'll switch on the app and we'll see what happens. It says connecting. Technically it should be out of range, so we'll just see what happens. Still says connecting.
Welcome to use. Connection successful.
It's now connected and the camera's starting to rotate and reset itself and get its bearings. And is now shown as online. As you can see, I didn't have to do anything at all from plugging it in. It connected automatically and is now going through the setup. And we'll now press the icon here and see what image it's producing. Our front garden. So even though it's well out of range, it's still working. It works over Wi-Fi, 3G or 4G. It doesn't consume too much data, but if you are planning to do 24/7 monitoring, it is better to use Wi-Fi unless you've got an unlimited data package on a phone or tablet. But it's a good product and it's not one that's going to let you down.